friends. Welcome back to another episode of Once More with Feelings. I am Michelle.
And I'm Beth.
So in this episode, we are going to end up saying that it will not be 2 parts, but that's a lie.
So how are you feeling about the podcast so far? We've done 10 episodes, including our holiday special, the Hard Nut Watch Along.
I'm feeling good. I'm enjoying this. This has been fun. It's getting me watching movies again because I don't tend to do that as often as I used to. Yeah, I'm finding this to be an enjoyable little endeavor that we are partaking in.
I have to say that I'm feeling very good about the podcast. It's like a cathartic release. Because we're delving into these movies and some music. And I think we're planning on doing music once a month?
At least once a month, yes.
Yeah. Before I always passively experienced a movie or the emotions from those movies. I never got to delve into them with anyone. And I think it's really hard to come up in conversation with how you feel about them, except for the initial, just after the movie when you're really excited about it. And you're talking to your friends or whoever, but you don't get to delve deeply into the conversation about the movie unless it's something they already feel strongly about. And I like the fact that movies that I don't normally watch, like, for instance, we did Moonstruck.
Yes.
I didn't have a visceral reaction to it when I was younger.
Yeah.
But I got to have one. And in the movie we're going to be going through today, I had a very visceral reaction where I never had one before. Never experienced a visceral reaction. Okay. I mean, I almost cried. And it was because it pulled an emotion out of me that I previously just didn't experience.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I'm glad that we're having this conversation now and that other people can maybe get something from that. And maybe they enjoy this movie or enjoy the movies we've gone through. And they get to feel like they're part of the conversation. And we really want them to be part of the conversation. I'd like for them to interact more with us.
Oh, I know. I agree 100%. I feel that I've never had the opportunity either to delve into movies the way we're able to do right now. I've never known anybody in my life that I could sit and have that conversation, but really never thought to, really go, well, this made me feel this way, and I noticed this because of that, and it's never really... I've never, outside of maybe Lord of the Rings, but everybody in everybody who likes Lord of the Rings, we've delved into it pretty deeply. Right. Or any type of, usually those epic movies, Star Wars. There's a lot to unpack, and if you know people who are really into Star Wars, they're going to have those deep conversations about the minutia of the movie. But you'd rarely ever get that with a regular one-hit movie, a one-time
non-saga
thing. Yeah, non-saga, fandom. A lot of these movies may have a fandom, but a lot of them may not have a fandom. Now, this movie today may have a fandom. I'm not really 100% sure.
Maybe Chaucer fans?
Maybe. I should have looked on AO3, Archive of Our Own, to see if there were any fan fictions.
Well, you just did a call out for the archive, so...
Hey, I love the archive, and once again, this is, I think, the second or third time I've mentioned AO3, so That's my place to go, peeps.
So, what did we watch today? What are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the 2001 Brian Helgeland, if I'm not saying that right, please correct us, the Brian Helgeland movie A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger and many, many other actors, which we will get into deeper in a few minutes.
Because there's a lot.
There's a lot.
There's a lot to this movie. And I don't remember having this kind of idea of this movie. The movie has changed my mind. And we're going to go over that, but I'm startled.
I've always loved this movie. For many different reasons, for different points in my life. For first time, I feel like it was the music. The second would be Heath Ledger. Getting to, when I realized, oh my God, I really, really dig, he's a good actor. And then I think it was like getting to when I started recognizing Paul Bettany and Alan Tudyk as who they were in the real world, in acting. I didn't know who these people were at first. And then when I started seeing them in other things, I'm like, oh, that's the dude from A Knight's Tale.
And I'm sorry, but Alan Tudyk is just awesome.
Wait till we start going through
spectacular.
credits, because I kind of was like being funny with myself when I was doing the credits. I thought it was funny. But, and then, we have, Mark Addy, who not many people know as Mark Addy, but when we get to the credits, you're going to, you'll know who he is. And actually one of his credits, I didn't realize, and now I'm picturing it, and I need to add it to our movie list, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
So let's go over the IMDb.
Okay.
So everyone can know what this is.
Yes.
So A Knight's Tale is described as such by IMDb. After his master dies, a peasant squire, fueled by his desire for food and glory, creates a new identity for himself as a knight. That's very succinct. There's a lot going on in this movie.
Layers.
But I think it misses the point, but it's very succinct to the very basic nature of the storyline. If you take it only as that, you'll still get something out of it, but there's so much more to this.
I mean, if that description was a season, it would be flour.
It's true enough. So A Knight's Tale is based very loosely on a story within the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, who it's called The Knight's Tale.
It's also loosely based on William Marshall.
True enough. And in The Knight's Tale, which is the written work, it is mostly about gods, love, and combat. Mm-hmm. Is A Knight's Tale about that? In some ways, very much yes.
Yes.
Less gods, although they play a small role.
Religion is very heavy-handed in this.
I think it's within the timeline.
Oh, no, definitely within
Sure.
the timeline. And the Rufus Sewell line that he uses over and over again, and then is thrown back to him as you have been weighed, measured, and found wanting, is straight from the Bible.
Absolutely. So, and it does, it's been repeated several times throughout the movie that, lines from the Bible or small lines.
And references to the Bible. Even Paul Bettany's character making references to Jesus and Mary, and he call her his whore mother Mary. He says it so fast that it's like, what?
And then we have, of course, one of the first things that's even spoken is, what is it that William says? God love you. And William says, because no one else will.
Because no one else will.
That line gets repeated a couple of times.
I also like when they're on the road to ruin, which is not, it's ruin, not ruin, but Paul Bettany's character is like, well, that's yet to be seen, paraphrasing, that's yet to be determined. Which could have been the double entendre in many ways, because it was the road to where they were heading, which was to ruin. But it also could have been
the
their
start
ruin.
Of the downfall. Yes.
It could have been their ruin, yes.
So the film widely diverges from the book.
Yes.
In such that there are really only the things that there are knights. There's a woman involved. Mm-hmm. Between the knights. That's about it.
Okay.
Not a whole lot more that goes with that. But where they do meet up again, I'll try to catch. It's been a while since I read it. I read it in high school, but I read it in junior high. The Canterbury Tales were something I read several times throughout my life, and I just haven't read it recently, but I do remember it well.
I do not. I remember it in the... Okay, let's go back in time to 1992, the year I graduated, and I had the most wonderful English literature teacher, Mr. Jackson. He was crazy. And he introduced English literature to us in a way that brought it hands-on. He was the first person who ever had any type of encouraging word when it came to my writing, even though at that time I wrote like but it was horrible. But he saw something in my writing. He was the first person to tell me that I was a plethora of useless information and that it was a compliment. And the word plethora being used was always like, oh. But he had us doing Gregorian chants, going through the school dressed as monks. But when we did the Canterbury Tales, he did it differently, where he assigned us different characters.
Right.
And I was assigned the wife of Bath. And I had to read her story and her tale. And then I had to come back and tell the class about it. Then, after we all did this, and he had 3 English classes. So there were 3 wives of Bath, 3 blah, blah, blah. And we had he would do a pig roast, and we would all dress in costume. We all had to bring finger food because that was medieval, no utensils. And we had to, and he roasted a pig, and we would watch Monty Python's Holy Grail. And I just remember the whole entire time he's outside with the pig, because he would come there the night before and start roasting the pig this was a tradition.
That's a lot of dedication.
Oh, this was a tradition. You knew Mr. Jackson was going to go through all of this. If you got kids either wanted him or hated the idea of being in his class. I was so excited I got his class. But he would run in every few minutes, go, don't let me miss the Black Knight, because he wanted to see the whole scene, it's just a scratch. That was his favorite thing. So yes, that was my experience. So needless to say, I remember everything else. Not so much the Canterbury Tales. It was kind of overshadowed by the rest of the amazingness that was Mr. Jackson. So A Knight's Tale stars Heath Ledger as William Thatcher. And unfortunately, we lost Heath Ledger in 2008 when he was 28 years old. So he was a baby. And it's hard to think about how young he was then, because I just can't picture it. I don't remember him being
actually
so
weird to think of him as old.
I know, or to even think of him, as being that young. But and when he died, but it's neither.
I think that Heath Ledger is much like the Doctor would say. He's a fixed point in time.
He really is. Wow. My movies because whenever I pick these movies, it's either movies that I know are really popular if I'm not really familiar with the actor, or I pick movies that I loved by the actor. So, of course, my first one for this one was 10 Things About You.
10 Things I Hate About You? I love that
10 Things I Hate About You. I'm reading my own words, and I didn't put the word hate in there.
I love that movie.
I do, too, because, again, I'm a Shakespeare nerd, and it is
right.
A Shakespeare movie. It's The Taming of the Shrew, and I freaking love it. I put down The Brothers Grimm, because even though, and I might want to add this one to our list as well, because even though I know it wasn't one of his popular movies, I enjoyed the crap out of it. But I love fairy tales, and I love fairy tale movies.
I saw the movie.
It was enjoyable. For me, it was. It's my thing. And I put an obscure one. I didn't want to put Batman, whatever he was in, I didn't want to do that, because honestly, I feel like he was so much better than that character. I feel like he was one of the best Jokers, don't get me wrong, but I just, But I put The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus.
Yeah.
Which was his last film.
Why they had to change the characters so many times. It
worked in the movie, and the movie is a acid trip, and I don't remember much about the plot, but I remember I did enjoy it, but it was weird.
So I have Dark Knight.
Okay.
Because he when he played the Joker, he defined a Joker.
He really did.
That was beyond the boundaries of Jokers that had been played previously.
I'm a Sid Caesar. I grew up with Sid Caesar.
But the Jokers that came before his character were played differently. Mm-hmm. And his had a different note to it. Now, was the movie great? The Dark Knight was pretty good.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty good.
It was.
The next one's not so much. But I think that he made that movie special in its own way.
Oh, yeah. He definitely embodied the Joker in a way that I feel it gave it more of the depth that the character needed. It
felt oddly grounded because of him.
Exactly. Where, when you look at the Jack Nicholson, I love the Jack Nicholson because I'm a diehard first Batman movie with Michael Keaton. I Prince's soundtrack. I mean, come on, people. That is like the most amazing soundtrack. But he's not the best Joker, and I know he's not, but he did a fantastic Joker. But when Heath did it, it was amazing. And I used to like Jared Leto, but I can't bring myself to watch anything that he does as the Joker. And even Joaquin Phoenix, I like him too, but I really can't bring myself to watch anything with them as the Joker, either one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I also have Brokeback Mountain.
I was going to, but I was trying to not do, Enos makes me cry.
I'm not trying to pick things that are popular.
I know.
Which all three of the ones I picked were popular. But for me, they show the depth of his characters.
Enos makes me cry. That's why I couldn't put it on there.
Right.
I was just like, oh, I can't.
And that's one of the things I really hate about gay and lesbian movies and trans movies. Anything LGBTQ, typically the movies are horrifyingly depressing.
Unfortunately.
And yes, that's a reflection of the world we live in, or the world we struggle in. We're still struggling. We're struggling right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to see that all the time. I want hopeful movies.
I don't want it to be the butt of the joke, but I also don't want it to be so depressingly sad. I want a happy ending. I want the rom-com LGBTQ plus. I want that.
As our friend Polly says to me quite a lot when we're talking about social media and our representation online, is it's fine to be depressed, but we need inspiration as well. We need something to look forward to look up to. And Brokeback Mountain, it broke some barriers.
It did.
Because, yes, it's two cishet men playing these roles.
Mm-hmm.
But you get your representation where you can. These names brought notoriety to the film. They brought viewers to the film to understand not two cowboys falling in love, oh gasp.
Yeah.
But two humans who could not be together. We're not doing a review of Brokeback Mountain.
No.
I'm just saying.
I know.
It has a very distinct purpose to existing.
Oh, definitely.
And I wanted to make sure that was highlighted there, because I think that Heath Ledger did a good job in representing all of the characters in the films that he played in.
It's much like people being upset over having a person of color playing Ariel in the live-action Little Mermaid. Representation is important. And seeing people like yourself, whether you are an adult or a child, is empowering. And it's important for us to understand that the world is not white. And that be all end all. The world is not white. The world is not straight. And when we don't accept that, that is why we have the problems that we have in this world. So that is my soapbox.
It's a good soapbox. So we have Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk.
One of my favorite characters. He is such a... This man has been...
I literally wrote he's in everything.
He is. He's in everything. If you have a voice acting job, he's been in it. I'm actually afraid he's been doing local commercials.
I picked 3 obscure things for him, but go for yours first.
Because you know what mine are going to be. You know. Well, I think you know.
One of them I know at least.
You know 2 at least. Alan Tudyk played as Hoban Washburn, or Wash, from Serenity and the Firefly series.
Mm-hmm.
28 Days, he was Dutch Gernhardt.
Yes.
Which I love that character so much.
Know.
I love him. I want to take care of him. I want to make sure he's okay and check on him every day.
Plants.
I love him so much. That movie moved me because of him. He moved me in that film. He was so sweet. Death at a Funeral.
Oh my God, I had Death at a Funeral. I
love that movie, and he's so good in it. He thinks he's gonna. We'll get into that.
Oh, we have to do that movie.
I know.
Too. I love Death at a Funeral.
Okay.
So since you have one of mine, my other 2 are not. Okay. Hey and Moana. Because that is is the depth of his acting. No, it is not. It is the teaspoonful of his acting. But come on, it's fucking hey.
But he puts his life into it.
He really does. It's the most expressive, idiotic, pea-brained rooster I've ever seen in any movie and or cartoon.
You can really feel the direction he's going in the movie.
Yes.
Which is aimless.
But my other one is actually, I went for a completely different form of media, not unlike our own right now, is he was Thomas Bradshaw playing Misha Collins' father in Bridgewater.
I knew you were gonna...
the Aaron Mahnke, I guess play. I'm not
teleplay,
sure. It's a teleplay.
I
Yeah,
would say teleplay. I mean, I know podcast plays
but it
have their own light,
yeah.
but I'm going to call it a teleplay because honestly, that's the section I see it in.
Oh,
So we'll
yeah.
just call it that until someone corrects us.
And there's a lot of people in that. Honestly, I really wish I'd written that down because there's a lot of big actors, not big actors, I mean, but pretty big actors in Bridgewater.
I think when we say big actor, a lot of times we mean A-list celebrities that pull in a lot of money. But let's redefine that. Let's do that on this podcast. Okay? Let's say that big actors
means that people know who their names. So
no, I say if they're big actors, they're people of substance. They're actors of substance.
I agree with that.
That this is a emotional driven podcast. Let's make our actors emotionally driven. So if they have emotionally driven characters,
yes,
and they themselves are emotionally driven, they are big actors.
Okay, I could do a whole podcast on Misha, and you know that.
We could do them on a lot of people, but let's make sure we give credit to the actors who put themselves into their characters enough that they drag emotion from you. They pull it from you and force you to face it.
Yes. Our next actor is another big actor. It's Paul Bettany. And I'm from Jersey, so I'm going to have a hard time saying his T's. Bettany? Is it Bettany?
Bettany.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Paul Bettany. And, okay, so where Alan has covered the Star Wars and DC aspect of the world, Paul has kind of covered all of the MCU.
It really has.
And so what I have for him is Legion.
Yeah.
He was Michael in Legion.
Yeah.
The Da Vinci Code. I haven't seen that, but I really want to. It's on my list of movies I want to see. But, okay, the reason why I never saw it before was because I wanted to read the book first. And I never got around to doing that. So needless to say, the movie sits in limbo until I read the book. But I doubt if I'm going to get to around to reading the book before I watch the movie. Words.
Words are hard.
Words are hard. And Jarvis/Vision in the MCU.
Right. And I think that covers pretty much Paul's, yeah.
And he
has a lot more. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff, but I think that covers everything. I mean, I only had him for MCU because the man's in everything too. And he plays a lot of characters.
Yeah, a lot of voices, like that, much like Alan Tudyk. And he plays Geoffrey Chaucer.
In this one, he plays the writer of The Knight's Tale.
Yes. And the theory being that there's about 6 months to a year in Chaucer's life, which historians have no account of. So Brian Helgeland, he decided that was going to be what takes place, is going to be, quote unquote, A Knight's Tale.
His inspiration for A Knight's Tale.
So also keep in mind that while there are historical figures in this movie, this is not intended to be historically accurate in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, no, it's absolutely not historical.
It is an anachronism within an anachronism on top of a burrito filled with anachronisms.
In an anachronistic rap.
Yes.
I think we've said that word enough times.
Our next actor is Mark Addy. He plays Roland. Sorry, I couldn't get that one out. He was in, and this made me, okay, I'll start with the ones that are obvious. He was in Doctor Who. I don't remember him being in Doctor Who, but I feel it might have been a season I didn't see.
I don't know.
But a lot of these actors, they're in Doctor Who, and it could be anything, at some point. He was in the Full Monty.
Yeah, didn't know that.
I did not realize that was him.
That's the one I have listed for him because I don't know him as well.
Okay.
I've seen him in different things, and I do think I remember seeing him in Doctor Who. I can't
place it either, but I should have wrote down the character.
It's really annoying that I can't place what episode he was in.
It was on the Pleasure Planet, one of the Pleasure Planets. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Or Leisure Planet. Sorry, not Pleasure Planet. The Pleasure Planet's a whole other thing. That's where Jack lives. That's Jack
Star
Harkness.
Trek. You went Star Trek out of Doctor Who.
He was also one of the more known characters he has played, in my personal opinion, was Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yes, he is Robert Baratheon.
Forgot. Yeah. I'm a recent convert to that show. Because you introduced it to me by watching it.
When I did a rewatch. Yeah, I did a rewatch.
And then I started watching it and got invested in the characters. That's the biggest way to draw me into something.
And we will not discuss that last season.
I didn't find it that bad. Debate me.
After the fall of the battle at Winterfell, the rest of
it actually made sense if you know her history. If you know the history of her father.
But see, it does make sense. No, it totally makes sense.
Because she degrades.
But she didn't. She degraded fast. Okay, we are going to go.
She actually degraded pretty quickly, and the only reason
she did.
We are getting into.
Yeah, okay. So, what movies did you have from Mr. Addy?
That's the one I had.
Okay, for Robert Baratheon?
Yeah. Well, no, the Full Monty.
Full Monty.
That's the only one I had because, again, I wasn't dedicating a lot of movies just to the people I knew.
Yeah.
And I was writing them offhand, not looking them up. So.
Okay, so the two female characters one of them is Sharon Sossamon, and she was in The Holiday.
Right, she cheated on Jack Black.
She did cheat on Jack
so
Black.
So angry with that.
And also, she did a lot of TV stuff. So she was in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Wayward Pines.
She was in Wayward Pines.
Yes, she was in Wayward Pines. She was Teresa Burke.
She was also in Sleepy Hollow, the TV show.
Yeah.
And she played...
Oh, yeah, that's right. She was in Sleepy Hollow. I forgot about that. Oh, my God.
So she played Jocelyn.
She was in Rules of Attraction.
Ah, okay. And the other female character is Kate, who is the blacksmith, and she's played by Laura Fraser. And she was in two things. One of which, actually, both of these I loved. One of them is Neverwhere because that is my favorite Neil Gaiman book, and it was like a mini series that they did for it was not bad. And I honestly forgot she was in that one, but the other one, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. It's not a great movie. I don't care.
You'd have to tell me about it first.
Divorcing Jack.
Never
David
saw it.
Thewlis. Oh, he cheats on his wife. He gets kicked out of his house, but he goes back to talk to her. She's dying. Somebody tried to kill her, and she's dying. And her last words are divorcing Jack. And now he is getting people chasing him all over the place while he's trying to figure out what those last words mean.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's actually a really good movie. Jason Isaacs has a part playing. He's as an Irish gangster in it. It's a really good movie. It's basically a Harry Potter reunion, but still. It was, yeah. I was on my watching movies with Harry Potter actors in it phase, and that's how I ended up seeing Divorcing Jack.
So I don't have any listed for her because I hadn't watched those, and I try not to list anything I haven't watched. Mm-hmm. But I can tell just in this movie, she is underutilized.
Definitely.
And I think even her character is underutilized. But I think that's probably because of the time period they were going with, or maybe it's just because they didn't have a lot of time to direct a lot of character interaction. But I think she definitely was a nice change in the group.
Yes.
So she gave something different to the group than a bunch of guys.
Yes, and her Scottish accent or dialect is just like, yes.
Well, and see, that's the second thing too, because we have among them, they're all Londoners for the most part. They're all British. She is not only not British, she is also a woman in a field that's typically even now done by men. So she stands out in so many ways, which separates her from everyone else in a very distinct, very nuanced way.
Yes.
And I think that was actually brilliant. I just wish they'd done more with the character.
I agree. And last but not least, I mean, not the last actor, but last but not least, of the main characters, Manies, is basically our bad guy.
God damn you, Rufus.
Rufus Sewell, because apparently that's what he do. And he plays Lord Adaman. Okay. And
Adamar.
Adamar. Okay. Again, my handwriting.
Count
I can't
Adamar.
read. Count Adamar. Yes. Okay. So you know how I love crossover actors, because that's how I roll.
And he is also
in The Holiday, but.
And?
So, Alan Tudyk was in a movie that he was uncredited. And that movie was Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. And Rufus Sewell was in Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
What was Alan Tudyk in there?
He a guy named Douglas.
We got to do that movie too.
I will have to add it to the list.
The book.
I've read the book.
Yeah.
I read the book. I love the book. So I have to see the movie. I love the book. It was so bad.
Yeah.
So bad it was good.
We got to see the movie.
Okay. So that's all the actors I have. Well, I mean, Prince Edward was played by James Purefoy, but I really didn't put much effort into looking information up because his character is just such a cameo.
There are a lot of characters that come and go, so it's better just to stick with our key characters.
Yes, and anything that pertained to Chaucer's book, I did not take note of because I figured you would cover it.
I'll try to cover it as best I can.
Okay.
Again, this wildly diverges from the book.
Yes.
There are similarities only in stylistics.
There's characters.
There are characters, but again, we're talking about some vastly divergent storylines.
Yeah.
So when we open, this is the thing that stunned me, even when I saw it back then, the music.
The music, yes.
The music of A Knight's Tale is in its own an anachronistic attack on the movie itself.
Yes.
It is displacing you so thoroughly.
So do you know why they chose to go with modern music? Well, I'm asking if you knew.
Oh, I know why.
Okay, so the reason why they wanted to go and use modern music was to show modern audiences the excitement that would have been felt in one of these jousting tourneys that the people there would have felt with their music playing and their lively, they're just their lives. So throwing our music in and music that we can relate to, even though it was classical, classic 70s music, that we react to that same way. When you hear the beginning of We Will Rock You, holy shit, things are going down. When you are at a game or some type of event. I mean, I just think of pep rallies because, I work in schools. But you hear, the doom, doom, tsh. Shit's going down and everyone's going to be clapping and stamping. And they wanted you to feel that emotion and that energy of.
Well, it's definitely an emotional driver. Mm-hmm. But I think there's more to the music being in the film than that. And I think while they are saying it because it's an easy thing to say to someone during an interview, mm-hmm. I think that the music drives more than the tourney. So
I do too.
During any of the tournaments, sure, the music is playing and it's there to draw you in because it displaces you. Mm-hmm. But also we have the dance afterwards.
Yes.
The music is there to make you a part of the scene, mm-hmm. even if it's not part of the tourney. Mm-hmm. So We Will Rock You is playing, and it is not a passive music. You have to understand that the music that is playing at any given time while you're watching the movie is being heard by the people in the movie.
Oh, they're singing along, they're partaking, they're invested, they're they feel it, they hear it too. It's not just background music like you hear in a movie that the actors, like the characters don't hear this music. This is music
It's
that...
not a soundtrack.
Again,
it's actually playing for them.
I still think Brian May should have stood up with a lute and did the electric guitar scene, but that's just, my personal choice. And
that may have been too hammy, but I think that still would have been kind of funny for him just to play a lute.
Yeah.
And have the electric guitar solo.
When we get to the dance, I have a couple little tidbitty things that, but I don't want to go there yet.
So they're actually doing the We Will Rock You as the credits kind of roll and they're going over the tourney field.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about tournaments, we're talking about knights, traditionally knights, although there are different levels of tourney in which knights will not participate, and it'll be squires and such.
Yes.
But we're talking about knights in a tourney who have the lances. It's what everybody thinks of as a tournament in medieval times.
Yes.
Or Middle Ages which is a very big age group, has the lances, and they ride horses at each other, and they use their lances to either knock someone off their horse or to injure them and kill them. Although this one seems to be more tame than most.
Yes.
Typically, knocking them off is not enough. They can actually opt to go to swords,
yes.
Go to arms, and actually fight it out on the ground. But in this case, they do not do that.
They do not.
More tournament-based, more sportsman.
Yes. And they do have rounds of sword play. And did they have archery? I don't remember them doing archery.
You didn't see it, but I'm sure it was there because archery is huge.
Yes.
That is a big event.
Usually, in those types of tournaments, it would have different types of skill level, different types of tournaments. But the big one is the jousting. That's the big boy. That's the one you're going to get the gold from.
That's the one that draws the crowds.
That's the favorite.
So as We Will Rock You goes, you have the people hitting. I mean, they're all in a line. All of the crowd is making they're clapping their hands to the beat.
Yeah, and it's funny, except for one old woman as it cycles through. Please look at this. I can't tell you the time stamp on it, but as it goes through the crowd, you will see one woman who is not synchronized with anyone at all. Yes.
I have to believe that's someone's mother they put in.
So, in defense, this was filmed in Prague, in the Czech Republic. And so in a couple scenes after that, when Chaucer is introducing at the sword competition, when he's introducing Count Ulrich von Liechtenstein.
Very good. You did that well.
Yes. And the crowd does not react. And then Roland goes, yeah. And then everybody starts losing their minds about it. Okay.
He does the side mouth. Hi. Yeah.
That actually was what happened because the crowd of extras didn't speak English and they did not know that he was done speaking and that they were supposed to cheer. So Mark Addy goes, yay. And then they started cheering and they all thought that was so hysterical that they kept that in. That's and good. I'm like, you know what? That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
So we find, because the summary, it tells you that these three men decide to take over for the night. So William Thatcher, is going to be the knight.
Yes. Yes, because their knight died. Yes.
While they're arguing about whether or not, because they won their first tournament, barely.
They pretending.
And they're arguing about whether to continue or take the winnings and separate.
Yes.
Because they're all poor and they have 5 silver each.
Yes.
That's when they meet Geoffrey Chaucer. When they meet him, he is naked.
Yes.
And walking down the road, and you don't really know why, but come to find out he is a gambler. He's got a gambling problem. Whether or not Chaucer had that in real life, I don't know.
I don't know
if he ever walked naked down a street, but I'm sure that probably is a thing he could do.
So he apparently goes missing in history time, where, like I said, the historians just have no idea of what he did, in about 1372. And he also makes a reference to the French papacy, the Avignon papacy, the French Pope, and that was 1309 to 1376. So that's why most people who've seen this movie and looking up and trying to find the historical accuracies have come to the conclusion that it was about the 13th, 14th century.
Yeah, because
1300s.
we have to make it fit.
Yes, it doesn't have to fit. It's just Chaucer when you throw in, and he is not the only real name. In this,
No,
there's
he's
a
not.
lot. I'll get into that in a bit, but you were saying, I'm sorry about meeting Chaucer.
No, I'm just saying that's how he's introduced.
Yes.
Is he's walking naked. They decide they'll take him with them
Yes.
because he needs the help, but mostly because they need his forgery abilities. Mm-hmm. So he can write a history
Yes.
for William Thatcher, and he becomes Sir Ulrich
von
Liechtenstein.
And then they head into the town and they enroll.
Jeffrey enrolls him
Yes.
by handing over the really well done paperwork, apparently.
And he's like going through all of his lineage, and he's like, "We only need to go back by 4." And he was like, "I guess
like 9.
Yeah." It's like, "We believe you. Go away." And you see the excitement of the tournament. You get to once again they're panning through the people, and you get to see.
This is also when William gets to see
Jocelyn,
who is walking through, and we've talked about this during the entire thing, and it's been, to me, it is slightly off-putting.
Yes.
For some reason, I find it slightly off-putting,
agree.
but I can't say it's not by design. Her wardrobes
Yes.
are always different from everyone else, but in a way that isn't pleasing.
So I couldn't find any explanation as to why those style choices, hairstyle, all that. Carolyn Harris was the costumer in that movie, and all I could find was like their colors. Everything was kind of drab in the beginning, and how everything starts becoming more jewel tone, more bright and rich. It's just the more he becomes popular and rich in the movie, it kind of goes with that. Nothing really explains the choices for her costumes, but yes, they're not right. They don't fit the time. Even I know it's anachronistic. I know it's not meant to be.
Well, I don't even think don't even think that it's an anachronism with the wardrobe. I think a lot of it has to do with it's all displaced, not necessarily in time, but definitely in country. So,
Yes.
like in some instances, she's wearing something that is either very much Chinese, possibly Japanese. I am not an expert in those.
Yeah.
But the lines and the designs lend themselves to be that style. We did find what could be a lettuce cap.
Yes, but you said it was about 400 years.
200 years.
Or 200 years
off,
too
so
soon.
that's definitely an anachronism. But it just feels like a lot of her stuff was styled for her body and to make her the most colorful thing in the film.
And the one thing I did see was the choices for her were to represent her independence as a woman in that time.
Right.
So she's going to stand out. And the one thing I noticed too was that she was always at all these tournaments, but we never saw her family, which she wouldn't. I mean, she had a handmaid, but she would never have been unaccompanied otherwise by, some type of chaperone of some form. But yeah, especially somebody who had that type of, not royalty, but definitely, she's titled in some way.
So when William is trying to find out her name, this becomes an ongoing thing for a while in which he does not know her name, and she refuses to give it. Mm-hmm. Instead, she is the fox and he is the hunter, and that's the thematic thing they go with.
Yes. He follows her into a church while riding a horse, and the clops were made. The horse hoof sounds were made with coconuts. You're welcome.
I know. Well done.
You're welcome.
They got them by African swallow. So you can tell in this scene where she is in the church and he is following her, and they are, he's on the horse and he's following her in, that the priest who is doing the "you have made this place unclean" or whatever he says is she has a lot of disdain for the patriarchal covenant.
Yeah, and she definitely uses sarcasm deeply with him as he's trying to say, your beauty is a curse and may you grow old, and like he's like giving her all these blessings, quote unquote, of her curse of being young and beautiful, and she's just like, oh yes, no, definitely it's a curse, it's horrifying.
So yeah, that's something that you see is that she has really little use for the religion or the people who use it as their commandment, their way of commanding people.
Yes. Though when you first see her, you kind of get the impression that she's a bit of a pious, almost nun-like, because it's hard to
silent.
identify the costume. The costume is a straight, almost an A-line, but a very narrow A-line robe. It's low cut in the front, but she's wearing that hat. And it's got a very medieval, piousness to it.
Well, it's also in the way that she moves, which is very reserved. It uses few movements. She only moves forward without moving her arms. Until she's in the church and she's laughing with her handmaiden.
Yes.
You get the sense that she's very reserved.
Yes.
But the truth of it is she knows when to use that to full effect.
Definitely. She turns it on and off because she has to.
When I originally saw this film, I did not like her. I was upset with the fact that for some reason I had it in my head that she gave him 3 tasks. And maybe that's wrong.
You're thinking of Samson and Delilah.
No, I understand. I'm not mistaking it because
or Hercules.
That's not the movie.
No, I know.
But that she gave him 3 tasks. Like that's part of this movie is like there's 3 tasks, but I only remember 2 now.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Having seen it, there's only been 2, but and that she was making unreasonable demands.
And we had that. We'll talk about that too, because
Right.
I feel like she did make an unreasonable demand, but that's just me.
But so William is going to continue this avenue of being this fake knight, and he's going to start doing these tournaments.
Yes.
And Jocelyn is going to these tournaments, so they kind of will be seeing each other throughout this.
Yes.
During the entire thing, you see knights fighting. Okay, they're in the tournament.
Yes.
They're going back and forth, and they're hitting with the lances, and I said this to you during the film, like a lot of balsa wood died during this movie.
And the truth of that is that they actually used so much balsa wood making those lances that they ran out, couldn't find it, were stuffing them full of linguine noodles.
Yeah.
Uncooked linguine noodles, so that way when they shattered, they'd still look the same. But they couldn't get enough balsa wood in the area. Well,
because they weren't in a place that had it readily available.
Yeah. So definitely a fun little fact. I remember watching the HBO behind the scenes things that they used to do, and that's where I learned about that.
So I knew this in some way. I don't know how I knew it, but I knew about this years ago. And I don't remember where I learned it from. It could have been that, or it could have been just
and every time I watch it, I tend to say that. That's my favorite little fact about this movie. They had run out of balsa wood and used spaghetti. You know what they used for the sound of the lances breaking?
What?
A howitzer slowed down to get that crunching noise.
That's a weird way.
I know.
Kind of seems like they could just take linguine and break it.
It won't make the right crunch noise. But I couldn't figure, when we were watching the movie, I'm like, I'm not hearing that. Usually you can kind of pick apart a sound
Yeah.
But I could not, like the roars of the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. You can almost take that apart in your head. Once you know the different sounds and how they're layered and everything, you can almost hear them. I could not hear like anything, even because it's so slowed down. Yeah.
Right. It changes the format.
Oh,
Yes.
totally.
So Chaucer gives this huge introduction
Yes.
to Ulrich.
Von Liechtenstein.
And people love it because he changes up the format. He introduces not only to the lords and the ladies, but also to the people in the uncushioned seats.
Yes. Definitely a nod to the Beatles.
Right.
Yes.
But also playing to the crowd.
Oh, definitely.
And he does it later at the end as well. He knows when to change the tide of things.
Yes.
He knows that writing, or therefore words, can make change happen. And as William says throughout the film, you can change your stars.
Yes. And that was what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a knight. And to be a knight, to be a knight, you needed to be titled. You'd had to have some type of lineage that gave you a title of count, sir, that you were a knight. You came from something. And William comes from nothing. His last name is Thatcher. They are Thatchers. It's what, he makes that joke at one point. And
it's just he and his father.
Yes. And you don't become a knight unless you have the lineage. Now, he could become a squire. And that was really the best he could be. And that was the best.
And a lot of times squires become knights.
But it takes a lot. And especially during that time, we actually mentioned this when privately talking not too long ago when we were talking about Arthur and Lancelot. And you said, he was never a knight. And that's because he couldn't be, because he had no title. He had no family to represent him. And that's a truth there, so in all reality, William never could have been really a knight during this time, not without basically an act of God and or royalty.
There are purchased knighthoods.
But I think a lot of that comes later on.
Right, it does.
Yes.
But when we're talking about knights, I like to think there are two different kinds of knights. You have royalty become knights, and those who through action become knights. And what William did was the latter.
Yes.
Through action, through deed. And really it was one action.
Yes.
In which he chose not to
run, not to give up.
No, not that.
Oh,
Before that.
He
chooses to fight and not to.
So Prince Edward historically is known as the Black Edward, but he would pretend to be basically a commoner, not a commoner, but
a common knight.
A common knight. So he could still partake in these tournaments. And in the movie, that happens, and the rumor is, it's Edward, it's Prince Edward pretending to be this Colville guy or whatever. And a lot of the other knights were like, nope, not going to do it.
So they forfeit their round to him instead of fighting him.
Yes.
Because there are two reasons why. Number one, he's that good.
Yes.
And
he's very good.
And number two, hitting the prince could get you killed.
And nobody wants to be known as the guy who killed Prince Edward.
But nobody wants to be killed by him either.
Exactly.
And also it's deference to the king.
Yes.
Not to kill or to fight his son.
But William, he's like, well, you know what? He put himself in the danger of, he wanted to participate.
He also sees the fact that the guy is disappointed every time.
Oh, yeah. And he's like, you know what? He wants to do this. So sure, I'll do it. I have no problem with it. And that earned him the respect of Prince Edward. And that will definitely come back to benefit him, and him not running also.
This is going to be one of the points of the movie where I try to encapsulate the entire movie as a certain theme. Mm-hmm. And
never give up, never surrender.
No. The theme is love.
It is love.
The theme is love, not because of one action or
No.
two. The theme throughout the movie is love. So we have love of friendship.
Yes.
We have romantic love.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have love through respect.
Mm-hmm.
That last one, that is the reason why Edward knighted William.
Yes.
Because he showed probably the deepest respect by respecting his feelings, by respecting the fact that he was there to compete. He wanted to be a part of it, and he allowed him to do that, which no others did.
Yeah.
That is the reason. And in each one of these is a test of love.
Oh, yeah.
The friendships, the friends all go through a test of love.
Yes.
They chose to stand by William. When he was supposed to run, they stood by him.
Mm-hmm.
Jocelyn, even though she's giving him tests, she is tested
Oh, yeah.
by love.
Oh, definitely.
To become a commoner, she was willing to give up all that she was to be with him.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then that test of respect,
Mm-hmm.
that test of showing another person that you are worthy because you find them worthy. He found Edward worth fighting
Oh, yeah.
and worth being there for, and so he returned that favor.
Yeah.
And those are important things that are in love for anyone. And I think in this movie, love is the key aspect of everything. And yeah, while you're seeing the romance within Jocelyn and William,
You're missing that Watt and Roland and even Chaucer and Kate all care deeply about William and want to see him succeed. And they want to do their best. But there's one love we're forgetting. The love of the craft. Because our girl, Kate, is a blacksmith in a man's world. And she is good, but she is underappreciated. And she knows that she has a hard time keeping up with the male counterparts because people don't want to go to a female blacksmith.
Well, she was relegated as a farrier.
Yeah, and she could do more than that.
So, because you're right, absolutely right, that there is, for her, this movie is about proving herself.
Yeah, because she wants to go with them at first because she wants to go with them to get to Paris.
Vastly underutilized. Her story gets lost among it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still there.
yeah.
She's making it happen, and she becomes part of the group because of that.
Oh, yeah, because it was not... Again, he didn't even want her to come with them. And she ends up coming with them anyway.
So we jumped a lot.
Oh, we did.
Of
We jumped
material.
all over.
But again, we're not reviewing these.
No,
we're talking about our emotions,
in all
and that's
reality,
where it leads us.
this is one of those movies where it does get a bit repetitive, because they're going from tournament to tournament. And so, yeah, there's not a... It's...
But what you find going through the tournaments is that William becomes more comfortable as a knight.
As a knight, yes.
But also, his friends become more comfortable in their roles as well.
Yes.
This movie has so much to it, because if you just look at it on the surface, you can get the love story, you can get the knights, you get all these things. But where this movie diverges a lot from the books, one of the key aspects is that the book, or the story within the book, does not care about class.
Mm-hmm.
The knights are knights.
Yes.
No one's disputing that, and no one's saying you can't do this because you're not a knight, because that's not the issue. They all have their positions. They all have their titles. In this film, they don't actually have the titles. This is a class commentary, because you have a commoner who has put himself in league with all these other knights who are there legitimately by birthright. So the entire movie itself, while it's about love, it's also about class, about classism. It's about where your standing is, because William is obviously able to do the things he's doing. He can do everything a knight can do in the context of the tournament.
Yes.
And yet, all it takes is saying he's not a knight to put him in a stockade.
Yeah, I mean they make you prove. How funny is that, and how relevant is that to what we deal with now? You have to jump through hoops to prove who you are, and yet it just takes one person to go, "Oh no, you're not," and everybody sides with them.
Yeah.
Well,
So I got my birth certificate changed. Okay. When I came out, I went through years of trying to get paperwork done. And you remember how hard it was
oh yeah.
that I had to get my birth certificate changed because I was not actually born in America. And it took a long time. That is very much an allegory to, my situation.
Okay. Wasn't what I was thinking of, but sure, yeah.
Oh, I'm relating it to my
I know.
to my thing. So when I say I am me, this is who I am. I mean, this is who I am. I am me. I'm not pointing to a mask. I'm pointing to who I am.
Yeah.
My birth certificate just reflects who I am. The change was done to reflect who I am.
Yeah.
Because they misdiagnosed me. That happens. Doctors misdiagnose. He misdiagnosed me. I know it's a he because I actually know the doctor's name. He's a German. So when someone says, I'm not me, that's all it takes. In our world right now,
Oh yeah.
that's all it would take is for them to say, she's, or
Oh yeah.
that's a he or not a she. And then I am discredited based solely on someone's word of who I am, despite me saying, well, my word says I am me. So
Yep.
these correlations, believe me, were not lost on me during this entire thing.
I mean, it's not the same exact, but I keep thinking of my situation currently. So I went to college. I have a master's degree in special education with a concentration in severe and profound adapted curriculum. I mean, my title goes on for miles. I have autism specialization, even though there's really no degree on autism. I took a whole year working for interdisciplinary teams and blah, 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 blah. I know my shit.
That's a lot of blahs.
It is. And I know what I'm talking
They're
about.
all accredited blahs.
And yet I have parents on both sides of the spectrum of either loving me or hating me, trying to discredit me. And because they either A, don't want to do their jobs as parents, or B, are so friggin' litigious and think that their child needs to have above and beyond in public school, people. If you want above and beyond, go to private school. Basically, this parent wants one-on-one care for each child when this, again, there's no reason for it. And he's a sweet boy. But regardless, it's going to take very little for these two parents to force me out of a job, whether the school district gets tired of them complaining about me, or I walk away, or they just manage to destroy my career that I spent years working to get into. So yeah, you bust your butt to get yourself proven, and it takes so little to get knocked down.
So we can all find things in this film that resound with us. It's not just classism, but it can also be about the situation you find yourself in professionally, in which you're beholden to a public culture.
Yep.
And personally, also to a public culture, to a societal culture.
Oh, yeah. And in this movie, yeah, it's definitely a societal culture of, well, knights are only accepted as being one thing, and you are just a nothing. And how they change left and right. Like, they're 1 minute, they love him, and then they hate him, and then they love him again. So, I mean, yeah, it's and unfortunately, crowd mentality is ridiculous, and universal mind is scary.
I like to think that if this film was done now, maybe a couple of years ago, that this would have any LGBTQ representation.
Oh, I bet you. And
Any
I bet
at
you
all.
it would have been Kate.
So
I have a feeling Kate would have been the girl who would have been looking for the girl, you know?
I think that it should have had some and had none that I could see.
Yeah. And
I saw none.
And while, I'm always the first one to say that people of color should be in a movie, this is definitely a distinctly white movie.
Oh, it's very much so.
I mean,
even to the point where she is wearing obviously Asian inspired at the very least clothing, and I don't see anyone there.
Now she has a very, unfortunately because it comes up on her IMDb, it wasn't like I was looking into her nationalities, but Shannon Sossaman has like Russian, but she's also got like Hawaiian, Korean. She's got a lot of nationalities, which gives her that very unique look, because she does have a very unique, almost she's an eclectic look. So her background is very eclectic. She has that background that if you looked at her face, you couldn't tell what her nationality was, much like Rashida Jones, where you look at her face and you're like, okay, is she Italian? Is she Hispanic? And it turns out that, she's got a black parent and a white parent, So really there's no, but with Shannon Sossaman, she has a lot of like mixed background.
She is definitely different from everyone around her.
Yes.
So
she would be the only person of color-ish.
Okay. In the context of the movie, she is the stained glass.
She kind of is, yes.
Because throughout the movie, it is all grays.
It is.
Drabs. Olive drabs. It's stonework. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're in the church,
she's got a pop of red.
It's not just her. She's the only thing in color, or has colorful clothing, but also the stained glass, which is what they're looking at later in the film. They're looking at the stained glass, and she makes a commentary about the stained glass. Yeah, she says it's like a riot of colors.
Yes.
And I think this is a commentary on her. This is saying she is the riot of colors because she's stained glass standing before stained glass.
Yes.
Amongst all the stoneware, she is the pop of color. She is the thing that everyone doesn't really notice.
Strong, but delicate.
And different. She is definitely different from everyone else. And that would be why Count Adamar, he is drawn to her as a trophy.
He really is, yes. And he does see her as a trophy.
He does try to hit on her.
Yes. And
during the first tournament.
And he makes arrangements. He goes into, conversation with her father, That's
later on.
Later on, but still, yeah.
But in the first of the film, when they're in the tournament that William is first introduced as Ulrich. Mm-hmm. Adamar is not part of the tournament, or he is, but they're not fighting each other.
Yes, he's explaining to Jocelyn the finer points of jousting.
The basic rules of jousting. As if she wouldn't know, and treating her basically like he's
mansplaining.
Yes, like men treat women. And he is viewing her as as something to conquer. Mm-hmm. While the difference would be that William is less subtle about what he's doing, which is trying to find out her name.
Yes.
He is also more genuinely naive.
He really is.
About how to approach a woman, and that makes him endearing.
Which is actually really funny because, the name that he is given as a knight is,
Sir Ulrich
von Liechtenstein, who was a real knight. He was also the person who he created chivalry and courtly love, the concepts.
Right.
He also used to offer gold rings to any other knight who could break their lance on his armor. Because he would always brag about how strong his armor was. He ended up giving away 271 gold rings.
That's a lot of armor.
But he did end up retiring undefeated.
nice.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool for Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein
So you
of
can tell
Gelderland.
they did a lot of thoughtful
They did.
things in this movie.
A lot of real knight names that were used, and real people's names that were used in this movie.
So
The dance. Oh well, does he have to go to the dance after he's first?
Let's talk a minute about what Rufus did.
What Rufus did.
Yeah, Rufus. This is another film in which Rufus is the bad guy, and I'm very upset
he's
at
such
him.
a dick.
He's very good at playing a dick, and I'm sure he's a very nice man.
Though, I mean, that's why it was perfect when he did the Shakespeare Retold and he played Petruchio, because, in Taming of the Shrew, Petruchio is a dick.
Yeah, that's his whole role.
Yeah.
So Adamar says he's hitting on her, but when William comes up as Sir Ulrich and is talking to her, trying to get her name, he puts down William like crazy, talks about how antiquated his armor is.
Yes.
Like, talking about someone's car. Like, look how bad your car is. Ooh. Oh my God, it's terrible.
Are you still wearing like 1982 Reeboks from that are like literally worn to pieces? I got these Yeezys over here, whatever the frick sneakers are popular now. I don't even know.
Mean Girls her.
It does. I don't know sneakers, so forgive me.
Nike.
Yeah, I wear Hobby Bear, so who am I to judge?
So he literally Mean Girls William.
Yeah.
And William doesn't really have anything he can say about it because he didn't expect, I don't want to say cock block. He didn't expect to be mean girled by a fellow knight.
Yeah.
You just don't expect it because you expect some decorum. And Rufus is a bit of, Count Adamar is a bit of a dick. Which is something I said in the last film.
I have to wonder if Rufus Sewell isn't a bit of a dick, because apparently during the filming, he had the flat that he was renting. He would have like almost nightly huge parties with like drugs, hookers, and mafia. So I mean, like, yeah, I literally wrote the Sewell parties.
Where did you look this up on TMZ?
I don't remember. No, this was one of those weird facts. It was on IMDb. It was like a weird fact that.
Oh my God! So, okay, I don't want to cast aspersions at someone I don't know for sure.
But no, I mean, he got some connections that are like. Ooh.
Maybe his character aren't so far from him. I don't know. I'm not going to make.
He got into acting to hide his nefarious.
I guess.
I don't know.
I'm not going to make assumptions. I don't know.
I don't know either. Don't come at me. Don't come at me, Rufus Sewell.
So if I had any actual knowledge of him, I could say that. I can't.
IMDb said it. I'm just relating it. So don't come at me, Rufus Sewell. I want to live.
They make mistakes, but we don't know.
Think of the
children. So William is winning his tournaments, and it's kind of driving Count Adamar crazy.
Yes.
You can tell because he needles him pretty much every chance he gets.
Oh, yes.
The dance afterwards.
Yeah, the dance.
First of all, they didn't know they were going to be in a dance. They were actually looking to leave.
They were going to go.
So after William won his tournaments, they're all looking to leave, and they're going to split this money.
Yes.
From a golden statue.
Yes. And
unfortunately, Chaucer, who has a bit of a gambling problem, owed 10 crown to his debt, to the people he got into debt with.
Simon the Summoner.
Right. You can tell because he's got a cudgel.
And Simon the Summoner is in The Knight's Tale.
Yes, that's true.
And is it Paul or Peter the Purveyor?
Peter the Purveyor?
Yes, he was also in the Chaucer. I believe it's I know he was with Simon the Summoner. He likes alliteration.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly on that.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
It's such a small part.
So really it is, but I couldn't remember if it was Peter or if it was Paul, but I knew it was the Purveyor. It was the alliteration that got me, but it was Simon the Summoner.
But yeah, he owes
money.
He owes money. So he had to...
That's why he had no clothes.
He had to use William's name, Ulrich's name.
Yes.
To get him from death, I guess, to beat it out of him or whatever.
Yeah, and that was the second time he lost his clothes to them.
Yeah, the first time was why he was
naked
walking
on the side
down
of
the road.
He has a problem.
And William does say he'll pay it.
I really wish I had looked it up if Chaucer actually did have a gambling issue.
Yeah, I didn't look that
There
up.
are Chaucer historians out there. So if you are a Chaucer fan, please let us know.
One of the things is I don't really want to dissect real people.
No, but I would be interested. I don't really want to know what, his dark side. I just want to know, was he a gambler? If he wasn't, if he was, yes. If he wasn't, no. I just thought, I think it would be really fun is if we did have, all the times we ask for our listeners to give us corrections, if we did a corrections episode where we went through all of our mistakes.
That would be a lot. That would be a couple of episodes,
I think if we do, if people would respond.
Because I don't want to delve into the lives of long dead.
I don't. I'm okay.
Writers.
I'm morbidly curious. So I will look it up later.
No. I'm not saying not to do it. I'm saying that for me, I don't find that.
I just want it's just an odd fact in the story for his character. So that's why I'm wondering if it was something that was known and I just don't know it.
It's just lately I've been finding a lot of artists that I like. Who have done horrible things.
Yeah.
And then I find that out about them and I can't enjoy the art anymore.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like I said, but just the gambling, it wouldn't bother me.
I mean, I think that would be funny.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, they tied that right in. That man probably did walk naked down the road. But
did he look like Paul Bettany?
I don't want to find out worse things.
No, definitely not.
So
the dance.
They go to the dance. And before that, he had to learn how to dance.
He had to learn how to dance, which was funny too.
Which is also weird because knights, they rely on their squires for a lot of things, and one of them would be accompanying them to dances.
True, but do you think the knight he was given to squire for was a dancer? Or was he just more of a sit-in-the-corner drinker?
I think most knights are dancers. The entertainments that they went through were very simple. They would go to dances. They would be required in a lot of cases to attend events.
Okay.
Even if they didn't want to, they would probably know at least the rudimentary dances.
True.
Of the day.
So he really should have known the dances then.
He probably should have known them at least well enough to fake it without being prompted. But this provided a nice sequence for Chaucer
to just rank on Watt. Yeah, to the point where he gets a bloody nose because of it. And
throughout the film, Alan Tudyk's character, Watt, is constantly beating on Paul Bettany's character, Chaucer. And it is a running joke throughout the thing that Chaucer's going to say something, Watt's going to get mad and beat him up. Or punch him at least.
And the thing is when it's like, it's the cliche fiery redhead. Alan Tudyk has got this like coppery red, fiery red hair in this. And he is, again, the short fuse. So flies off the handle, gets pissy to the point where at one point he's so angry he can't make words.
And it's weird on Alan. It just doesn't sit.
No, I don't like him play. So one of the things we didn't mention that he is in is that TV show, Resident Alien.
Yeah.
And we both enjoyed that. And even that character, as much as he wants to kill humans in the beginning, he's still not angry.
Alien, but he doesn't.
He's not angry.
He's a lovable.
He's really lovable
character. And I think that Alan Tudyk can play lovable very easily.
Yeah.
But and he can play a bad guy. I'm not saying he can't be a bad guy.
Oh, no, he can play a bad guy. But just playing a
angry
off the...
is weird.
And that's it, because the character gets so angry. He pulled a me. He's so angry that he couldn't get words.
Yeah, they have a word for that. It's called apoplectic.
And that's me. When I get so angry, I either cry or I can't make words, or both.
He was apoplectic.
He didn't cry, though.
In that moment, he was so angry he could not say the words he wanted to say.
Oh, my God. But at the
So they're doing the
they're
dancing.
practicing, yes. And Kate
Yeah.
comes in and she's like, "Pfft, I could teach you, you know, because she's awesome. And she
Right.
does.
And Chaucer's beating out a rhythm, and they start learning how to dance. Mm-hmm. All of them start learning how
Yeah.
to dance.
While Roland is sewing a shirt made from a tent. So
Right.
that way he has, that way William has a green something to wear
Well,
because
that
they
was
had
a funny
asked.
scene.
Yes.
Because before that, when they decided to go to the dance, is because Jocelyn was going to go, and she had sent her handmaiden
Yes.
to ask, "What are you wearing?" Because that way we can match.
Yes.
And he's like, "Oh," and William did not want to go to this. And
No.
he's like, "Oh no, we're going."
So
and
Roland.
So Roland is like, well, he'll be wearing, and he's looking behind her head at the tent they're
Yes.
facing, and he's describing the tent opening.
And it's green with a light green accent
And
and
wooden toggles.
And then when you see her, she's wearing a green dress. Her green dress is not the right shade of green. That's all I can say. I hate when greens clash. I hate when colors clash. Like you can wear two shades of blue, and if they clash, it bugs me.
Everything about her styling is off in some way that I can't really define, and I don't know if it's just me.
The only thing I thought was cool about her outfit was the coloring, the makeup she had under her one eye was to mimic his black eye, so they matched.
Yeah, but her makeup is fine. Her makeup and her hair, I thought was very good.
But even her hair did not make sense for the time.
Well, it didn't make sense, but I liked it.
Oh no, I liked it, but it
But
was just
I actually found her clothing off-putting. Okay. Like her style on her looked wrong. For some reason, I just couldn't. I still can't put my finger on why the styling on
it just
everything
makes her
she
stand.
wore.
I think because it makes her stand out. It makes her stand out, but not in a good way.
I don't know.
So with the dance, when they go,
Maybe it's like Marshmallow in church. It just stands out too much. I don't know.
So you mean Marshmallow from Bob's Burgers?
Yes.
I knew that's where you were going with this.
I'm trying
You have
to
to specify because if somebody's going, why would they have a marshmallow in a church? Is it just sitting on the pew, just chilling, a little marshmallow? I mean, what's wrong with that in a church?
Marshmallow's a person, and she's wonderful.
She is amazing.
Bob loves her.
Oh, he does. So, I always like to insert my little tidbitties, or bid titties. What?
I know you wanted to reverse that.
No, I
but that
wanted
was
to return so
hilarious.
bad. Okay, so originally, so in the dance, they're determining what they're gonna do, what type of song. And there's a gentleman. He comes up and he's like, "What would you like us to play? We can do this kind of a dance, and we can do this kind of a dance." And Count Rufus
Butthole
stands up and he goes, "Well, Sir Ulrich, why don't you show us a dance from the Gelderland, where you are from?" And everyone's like, "Yeah, the Gelderland." And of course, William's shitting bricks because he doesn't know.
He stumbles through
some
this repetitive and
clappy. Well, no, the Jocelyn helps him with the claps, but it's a lot of sways.
She saves him.
Yeah, she really does. And the music starts to play, and it starts where it does sound medieval. It's got that lute kind of harpsichordy kind of.
Well, it's using like the mandolin.
Yeah.
And it's really like playing into the era.
Yes.
So it's not anachronistic at that point. Well, not entirely. The tune itself is definitely anachronistic.
Yes.
But then it flows into the actual song.
Yes. So what happened is originally it was supposed to be Get Down Tonight by Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Oh, that would have been so good.
So that was actually
harder to do, but still good.
But they did use the song later on in a scene that was cut, and it was a riot. Now, in the cut scenes, if you get the DVD and you watch the cut scenes, the riot is there, but they don't have the music over it. But originally, that was where they ended up putting it later on. But Heath Ledger said Golden Years by David Bowie would have been so much better. So they got permission from Bowie to not only use the song, but to split the track.
Right.
So they dance to Golden Years. So it starts out very proper and medieval dancey, and then it turns into a party. So I think that this is where we're going to stop it for this episode.
It went overly long.
It's a long episode.
It was really quite large.
We said not 2 parts, but it will be 2 parts. And
we certainly made that happen by going 4 out. No, it's like 2.5 hours, I think. 3 hours.
3
maybe?
hours, yeah. We like this movie, and there's a lot to talk about.
There really is. So where can we find this film?
Okay, you can find this film on Prime for $3.59. You can watch it on Google, Apple TV, or Fandango at home.
Fandango. I just love the way to
Fandango.
Fandango. So thank you so much for going on this journey of part 1 of 2. This has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPod. Visit our page at oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com. Or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment to subscribe and rate us on iTunes, and also do the same thing on YouTube, where we have some fantastic active listeners. We really love hearing from you, so please keep that going.
Yes. This has been fun, and we'll see you in
Part
2.
With hope. Love should end with hope. My husband, God rest him, told me something I'll never forget. Hope guides me.
It is what gets me through the day and especially the night. The hope that after you're gone from my sight, it will not be the last time I look upon you.